Hey there, welcome to Rested Mamas Talk. We're Chelsea.
And Mika, your certified pediatric sleep coaches who were once exhausted mamas just like you turned into rested mamas who now have helped hundreds of families get better sleep in 3 days with an alternative to traditional sleep training.
As creators of the Association Fading Sleep Method, we teach a responsive and holistic approach. Our podcast is dedicated to sharing the journey from true parental exhaustion to thriving parenthood.
From real sleep tips from us and other experts to real stories of families just like you.
Let's get rested.
Hey everyone, and thank you for joining me on our podcast topic for this week. It is just me today, Mika, but I wanted to chat with you about some really crazy things that we have seen online. Before we jump in, I want to thank our partners at Coco Moon. So today's episode is brought to you by a truly special brand that's all about bringing the warmth of the beauty of Hawaii into our homes and our hearts, making a huge difference in families and babies. And I'm going to tell you all about it. But we love featuring our special partners, especially brands like Coco Moon, that is creating really products that are beautifully designed, hand-me-down quality, feature one-of-a-kind prints that bring the beauty and spirit of Hawaii to families all over the world. What we really love about Coco Moon is that they have a ton of give back efforts focused on supporting a local medical center for women and kids, the Kapiolani Medical Center, and it's the only full service children's hospital in Hawaii, provides care to Hawaii's most vulnerable children, and they can't get that care anywhere in the state. So I love that they're supporting them. They're also currently donating 100% of the proceeds from the Maui Strong collection to the Maui Strong Fund, which is going to support families affected by the Maui wildfires. I'm sure you guys have all heard in August of 2023. So really, really excited to have them sponsor today's awesome podcast topic, which is going to be about the most absurd things that I have heard or seen about baby sleep. So we do this once in a while. I know we have myths and things that are maybe around the gray area, but I have seen more and more super absurd things come up on our Instagram page. And a lot of times in our comments where we post maybe a tip or we provide a little explanation about something. And what's really crazy is while a lot of families are there to have that conversation with us, there are some families there who are trying to provide the things that have worked for them. So I'm going to go through some of these crazy things, and maybe they're not as crazy to you. Maybe you've heard them. You guys tell me. But I'm going to go through a few, and I'm going to tell you what actually matters. So the first one, oh my gosh, I have not heard this tip in a really long time. And I remember that actually as a child, this was done to me. Obviously, I was old enough to realize that it was being done to me, and I remember it. I think I was probably a toddler, but I remember being in my grandmother's bathroom, and at that time, I was born in the Philippines, so we had our family all living in the same place, and my grandmother took care of me quite a lot. And I remember maybe I wasn't sleeping, and she pulled out this glass container of alcohol. I'm pretty sure it was whiskey. And so some of you probably heard this, right? The whiskey on the gums method. So that the hack that I think my grandmother was probably taught was rubbing whiskey on a baby's gums to help them sleep, especially during teething, was somehow going to help. Absurd. Now, when you are super desperate for sleep, you might consider it. But I want you guys all to know right now, and we know this, so this is not crazy, that, alcohol is harmful to babies. So even small amounts, it can do a lot of things like depress the nervous system. It can actually lead to more sleep disturbances, breathing problems, and other really serious issues. And just remember, some of the wake ups and then transitions between sleep cycles, we don't want those to go away. Even when we are sleep training, they'll still wake up, but the idea is they go back to sleep. So suppressing that and not allowing them to be fully awake can be actually pretty dangerous. So the American Academy of Pediatrics obviously strongly advises against this practice. And there's really a lot of other ways to soothe a baby's teeth during for discomfort and also for sleep, right? What are some of those things? We've talked about it a little bit in some of our other podcasts, but offering a really cold rag, not frozen, but a really cold rag, and allowing them to chew on that right before bedtime can actually help, because what is really kind of crazy, it's a loop, is a number one thing that pediatric experts say will actually help with teething discomfort for sleep is sleep. So if you can get through that first part of the night, offer those things and offer teething toys and all of those things. All right. Some of these things maybe are less absurd than others. And I'm going to save the best for last, but another thing that we often hear is, especially now because they've changed the age, is loading up on rice cereal. And at glance, it makes sense, right? If your baby is full, then they won't want to wake up as much, or they'll sleep a little bit better through the night. Now, the truth of that is that not all wake ups are going to be due to hunger. Maybe if your child is younger, right, and they're in that developmental growth period where they're trying to regulate their digestion, usually before 4 months of sleep, or 4 months gestationally. But you're also not, during that time, going to be introducing rice cereal to a baby. I think right now is, they say maybe around 8 months, but you really have to pass those milestones of a child being able to sit up and all those things. Otherwise, it could be a choking hazard. So when people talk about adding rice cereal to a baby's bottle to make them sleep better, I really advise against it. There's really no scientific evidence to support the idea that heavier foods lead to longer sleep. So in fact, like I mentioned, introducing solids too early can actually increase the risk of obesity, allergies, digestive issues, because baby is not ready to digest those things. And believe it or not, actually create more wake ups or issues with tummy hurting and all those things. The American Academy of Pediatrics recommends making sure that you focus on breast milk or formula for the first 6 months of life for sure. I know that there used to be 6, maybe 4 months, you used to be able to introduce rice cereal. Really now it's closer to about 8 months. There's no rush for it. Okay. I remember this was also a confusing thing to a confusing myth, because it feels like, oh gosh, well, they say that about formula, right? And if you have heard some of our other podcasts, I am going to repeat this because this is my absolute favorite study. Is basically a study that showed that there is really no difference in sleep between those who are formula fed and those who are have breast milk. Okay, so don't think that just because it's thicker or whatever it is, that's going to help a child sustain for the night longer. It is a little bit of a misnomer or a myth to think that the only reason a child is waking up is because of hunger. And like I mentioned, maybe before 4 months of age, that is the case. Probably 80% of those wakings are due to hunger and they're growing. But after a baby is about 4 or 5 months of age, or for sure, after your pediatrician has already approved no middle of the night feeds and that baby is developmentally ready to actually take more in the day, doing the rice cereal thing or, loading up right before bed is going to cause more harm than good. A lot of times we see our babies have reflux because they're over full. And it really does cause some digestive problems and gas in the middle of the night that you really don't want to deal with. So focus on the other factors. Certainly make sure that your child is getting what they need during the day, but loading up before is not going to help. Okay, we're going to get more absurd. The other thing that I saw on our Instagram page is around, I have to read this because I kid you not, and I think I've seen this in a couple different places. Placing slices of onion inside your baby's socks at night to promote better sleep, especially in times of cold cures. So the idea behind this hack is that onions can somehow purify the blood, absorb toxins, and even fight off illnesses while the baby sleeps, leading to more restful nights. However, the notion lacks any scientific strays into the territory of, and it does stray into the territory of wives' tales rather than actual evidence-based practices. So here are some of the things that I have learned because honestly, oh my goodness, I would not be surprised if this was done to me as a baby. But anyways, no absorption through the skin. The human skin is semi-permeable, meaning it can absorb certain substances, but it's not designed to absorb onion compounds in a way that could significantly impact sleep. So we could sleep with an onion all night. The onion might absorb things, right, and oxidate, but the way that our skin is, it's not going to seep up whatever magic even an onion could prove to have for sleep. All right. Also, there's no evidence of detoxification. So there's no evidence to support the idea that onions can detoxify the body, especially through the soles of the feet. The body's detoxification process is pretty complex and primarily handled by the liver and the kidney. So that's quite a way for that onion to travel up, which is why it's really not going to do much. Okay, the other thing, why? Okay, so onions can also have potential irritation. Placing onions directly against a baby's skin could potentially cause irritation, allergic reaction, given the sensitivity of infant skin. So we don't want to add any foreign things on there, especially again, someone that young. So really, the sleep environment actually matters more. So factors that significantly impact baby sleep includes a comfortable sleep environment, and consistent bedtime routine. All the things, honestly, that we really advocate for, and those elements are what's supported by research for sleep. So, which actually takes me to one of the things that popped up was appropriate sleepwear for temperature. So a lot of our families actually grow up with their moms or grandmas or aunts telling them, they really need to bundle up a baby at night because you want to keep them warm. And so this is actually one of the things that I wanted to talk about before I give you the most absurd thing maybe that we've heard. But the factor that matters there is going to be making sure that your child is comfortable, not necessarily warm. And actually, we do not want a child to be warm as one of the absurd things. I remember when I had my first and she was in not a onesie, we always kind of had a sleeper and a light sleep sack. I live in California. It gets okay at night. I mean, sometimes it gets a little cooler, right? We have our cool summer nights, and baby woke up in the middle of the night, and someone in my family was telling me, like, oh, they must be cold. It's too cold. All they have on is this thing. And I'm so glad I know all the things that I know. And I can tell you right now, we actually don't want a child to be too warm. We actually want them to be cooler. So the ultimate temperature is around 69 to 70 degrees. And that is going to sound pretty cold. Now, I want you to take that temperature with a grain, because 69 degrees in California is going to feel much different than 69 degrees in Florida. So what you want to do is you want to check a child's chest and the back of their neck and even their tummy if you have access to it. If you are worried about their temperature, you never really want to use hands or feet as an indicator because they're always kind of naturally clammy and cold. What you really want to check is the core body. And the reason we want to keep it cool is our bodies actually naturally drop in temperature at night to go into this restorative stage. And so actually keeping your child cooler will actually help with getting them to sleep longer and be less uncomfortable, right? I mean, I know for me in the middle of the night, I am more irritated when I'm hot. I got to take the sheets off. It just takes my body a little bit more to cool off. It's kind of the same for baby. We really want to stay in that cooler temperature because it helps us actually maintain those deeper phases of sleep. So what are the things that actually help? People buy all these special sleep sacks. Honestly, I would recommend investing in just some really good pajamas. That's another reason why we love Coco Moon. Bamboo PJs are actually very, very good to have. I would say there are two things that we look for, or I looked for as a mom. About maybe some of the things that actually help when I'm buying clothes. And one was going to be bamboo, something that was bamboo and organic, something that was lighter, something that allows for temperature control, that kind of thing, which is, actually Coco Moon has a lot of. So the two favorite things I always see on there is they have this like bamboo newborn coverall that is so perfect. And then they also have those for toddlers. And my favorite, I will say, I know that there's a ton of options now, but what I love is really their bamboo gowns, for their babies. So in the middle of the night, we are changing our babies all the time. I love the idea that I could just pull up that gown and then change that diaper and then pull it right back. There's nothing worse than having to really wake up a baby and get them super naked. I definitely recommend checking them out. The other thing I look for in PJs are those where you have the zippers. So they've got a ton of those, and honestly, some of the cutest prints. So I go on a tangent because I love Coco Moon so much. We do have a discount code, Arrested. We have Arrested 20 as our code, and you'll get 20% off on there. So check them out. Maybe the only thing that's worth paying for, don't pay for an extra onion, slice it up. Don't pay for that extra rice cereal. I'm not going to say don't pay for your whiskey, because you might have whiskey at your house, but like, don't use any extra whiskey for your babies. Which leads me actually to the one most absurd tip that actually popped up. And I saw something on Instagram and TikTok about this because a pediatrician actually debunked it because they were like, what in the and it was two parts actually. So this comment came from, we had a reel and it had something like, thank God I sleep trained and my baby sleeps like from 7 to 7. And like that's a true story for me. I'm a working mom of two. I have two businesses that are running. My daughter is homeschooled. I really don't have the luxury of like taking the naps when I can. I am a contributing, solid member to our finances and a solid contributor to life for my child to learn, who is now 8 and who was sleep trained quite a long time ago. So it was really, really important to me. And really was meant to like resonate with other families. Don't let anyone guilt you into thinking that sleep training is this horrible thing. Sleep training means a lot of things to a lot of people. For a lot of people who feel really negative towards it, it's probably because they associate it to cry it out. And I shouldn't say probably, it is because they associate it to cry it out, which if you follow us on Instagram or you go through any of our blogs, you know that we don't do cry it out. There are so many different methods. There are so many different things you can do. And this picture of having a baby cry for hours and hours out for a few days and just like leaving them, that's not where we are today, right? We're not giving babies whiskey anymore. We're not leaving babies like for hours on end. We're not using onions. So like clearly we have evolved. So there's that. Anyways, so I posted this thing and there's moms commenting, and then I see this comment at the bottom and it says, cherry tart juice and flip your kid over right before bedtime worked for me. I had to read that thing twice. And then I had to go look and I had to go digging in and figuring out what in the world is this thing saying. So I did some digging, and I'm just going to kill the facts right now, or I will myth bust right now and just tell you obviously that there is like no evidence. That's not something in the pediatrician. I want to say it's Ped Docs Talk or something like that already debunked the whole flipping thing, but the claim is that cherry juice contains melatonin, which is that hormone, that sleepy hormone, that helps people sleep better and therefore will help your child sleep better. And while it is actually true that tart cherry juice has been found to contain melatonin, and may slightly improve some sleep in young children, really lacks robust scientific evidence. So the American Academy of Pediatrics really advises caution on giving children any melatonin containing products without consulting your healthcare provider, okay? Because there's a lot of side effects actually to introducing unnatural melatonin to your child that actually can have pretty long-term impacts to them. With that being said, we're obviously not going to be providing any tart cherry juice to any kid under 12 months of age. That's dangerous in general. And then after that, you can talk to your pediatrician if you feel like that's going to be the key. But I'm going to guess that there's not going to be a huge impact to that. Probably will cause more harm than anything. And really at that point, you really want to focus on some of the other natural parts of sleep. Now, the other claim was that you flip your kid over. So the claim was physically flipping your child before bed can somehow reset their internal clock or induce a state that promotes longer sleep. And Ped Doc Talk, I think, already said there is no scientific basis or physiological mechanism in which flipping your child before bed would impact their sleep patterns or quality. So sleep is really regulated by a complex process of brain systems involving neurotransmitters and your circadian rhythm, not really your physical orientation or manipulation. So, so don't flip your baby. Don't give them any rum whiskey, and cherry tart cocktails. But I hope you enjoyed the little laugh that I had. So remember, there are so many factors. There's just true that impact sleep. And so it could be easy to fall into a lot of these absurd myths and think like, what do I have to lose? But just know that you don't have to experiment. And we work with families all over with their unique situations, and know that honestly, there's only 4 major categories or factors to sleep that for sure are going to help you. One is going to be environment, having the right clothes, having the right temperature, having the right things that your child associates to sleep. 2 is going to be having the right schedule that aligns to their circadian rhythm. So you notice, the American Academy of Pediatrics always talks about that sleep is complex and it is really impacted by circadian rhythm. That's the investment that you have in your naps. Now, there's also a ton of really confusing things about naps online, and if I can provide you just a little bit of takeaway, because we don't have a lot of time left here, is do not look for a template and have your child uh, match that nap. That nap schedule has to match to your child and what they're doing naturally. Sleep needs are different across ages, across babies, and it's really important that you're able to allot day and night sleep, so that you can maximize both. That is really the goal, and also help your child fall asleep faster. This is kind of our bread and butter, what we do around circadian rhythms and helping those natural factors. And the third is going to be, that's why we don't say sleep training is the third factor. Independent sleep routines is going to be the third factor. Now, whether you formally sleep train and you use a method or you get help, or maybe you changed a routine and your baby kind of weaned off of it, that depends on the baby. Not every baby can just naturally start falling asleep independently. Those babies are actually genetically predisposed, which we also talk about everywhere. So don't feel like there's anything wrong with your baby if they have strong associations. But independent routines are really, really important to making sure that, especially after 3 months of age, you're really ditching drowsy but awake, but your child is able to fall asleep from awake. And then the last is going to be to make sure that you know how to maintain that sleep. So a lot of times, people think that they can just go ahead and sleep train, and not even work on the naps, and then afterwards think that that's going to stick around forever. It's not, if you don't know how to adjust your child's sleep for the future. So if you want to learn more, we always have our free webinar you can check out, and that link will be below in the descriptions. And I want to say thank you for joining me. Thank you again to our friends at Coco Moon. We really do love their sleepwear. If we could pick anything or anyone to partner with, it would be Coco Moon and their give back. So if you want to give back to the community and you also want to get some really sweet PJs for your baby, check out Coco Moon and make sure to use your discount code RESTED20. All right, see you soon.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Rested Mamas Talk. To stay connected and get more sleep tips from us, follow us on our Instagram page at rested_mama_happy_baby.
To find out how we're helping families around the world get better sleep, check out our website, restedmamahappybaby.com, or chat with us directly to learn more about our programs. Chat with you next time.